You're listening to Safety Cafe, Conversations on the Frontline, the podcast with real conversations with industry experts who live and breathe safety on the job. Whether you're on a construction site, in a warehouse, or out in the oil and gas field, this one's for you. So grab your hard hat and coffee. It's time for Safety Cafe.
I'm Monik Hernández with NW Safety, and you're tuning in to the premiere episode of our brand new podcast, Safety Cafe, Conversations on the Frontline. Since Women in Construction Week happens every March, we couldn't think of a better way to launch them with a powerhouse guest, our good friend, Claudia Rambaud, HSE Manager at Enterprise Commercial Paving. We met up at Segundo Coffee Lab in Edo, grabbed some incredible coffee, and had an amazing conversation about safety, leadership, and breaking barriers in construction. Let's dive in. So Claudia, welcome to our first Safety Cafe podcast recording.
Thanks.
Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
I feel like we've gone way back. I mean, how long have we known each other?
Let's see. I was at Slack for 9.5 years. So I moved here in 2014. So probably just as long.
So 11 years.
Yeah.
Right. I think that it's flown by, but we've seen each other like all the phases of our life.
Right.
Like I remember when you were Claudia De La Torre.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
And of course, Johan. You knew Johan before we started NW Safety, and then you've been with us since the beginning days. So
yeah,
it's been an exciting run, and it's been exciting to see you grow. So as we get started, tell us a little bit about your run in construction. How did you get into construction? How did you get into safety? Was it serendipitous? Because I don't think people grow up saying I want to be a safety person.
Right. And I mean, I definitely didn't expect to end up in the safety world in construction, for that matter. I grew up wanting to be a vet.
Oh, okay.
So I love animals, dogs, and I'm a big dog person. I have 2 dogs.
Oh, what kind of dogs do you have?
I have a dachshund, Randy, and
that's right, Randy.
Yeah, Randy, and then a Chihuahua that we adopted a few years ago, Roo. So
Ruth?
Roo, R-O-O. Yeah.
Oh, Roo. How cute. Oh,
yeah.
Like the little
like kangaroo.
Kangaroo.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
It's especially a Chihuahua.
Yeah. So she is a Chihuahua. So she, she hops. She has hops. So that's where the name came from.
That's so perfect.
Yeah.
I'm a big dog person too. We have 3 labs, 2 black labs and 1 golden lab that we rescued off the street, and he was left for dead, and we just picked him up off the street, and yeah, it was. I'm so glad. Now he's been with us for 3 years, and so I never imagined having 3 big dogs in our house, but
But there you go. They grow into your family.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But going back to your original question, so construction, so I grew up wanting to be a vet, went to school for communication, actually at that point wanted to get into nonprofit work. So the market wasn't the best when I got out of school, and my mom has worked at Zachary's for, at this point, 40 years, a little over 40 years, so I started construction with her, during summers and school breaks, I would go and just work in the office. So when I graduated college, I ended up working with Zachary, and there you go. I'm in construction. It kind of sucked me in. So,
I guess by default, being around your mom. So what does your mom do?
So my mom is actually, she's had a couple of different roles. She used to be in accounting, type role first, and now she's in human resources with them too. So, but so I kind of got sucked into construction. From Zachary, I ended up with another subcontractor. Was with them for 4 years, and then at that point decided I need something new. Ended up making the move to Houston, and that's when the safety role kind of started. Before that, I was primarily doing HR. I mean, I think at this point I've done every job in construction that you can think of. At Zachary, I did document control. At the second company in San Antonio, I was doing, payroll. I think I did a little bit of HR, a little bit of safety, but that's where I came from. And then when I moved here, I got hired on as a safety assistant. And so the rest is history. I kind of grew from there.
So was the safety assistant job at Slack, or was that at Slack?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the safety assistant job was at Slack. I was under the impression that it was like a safety HR assistant. And so when I got there, they were like, no, it's just safety. Yeah. And that took a whole other turn because literally 2 days into the job, the safety director at the time put in his 2 weeks. So
it wasn't Terry Booza at that time?
No.
Okay.
Terry came in, so I started in August. He came in the following April. So,
wow, okay.
Yeah, so I was by myself from August to April, kind of trying to figure things out. And somehow I made it work. And that's where, you guys and Johan came in because he, I think at the time, was with another company, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So that's how I met him initially. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we're 9 years in, so yeah, it was all about that same time right there. Yeah. I would have to say, of course, Terry being such a instrumental person in NW safety and who we are today. Like, I feel like if he hadn't come on early on and reached out to us, like, I don't know if we would be where we're at today, So I think in like a journey of anything, and your growth and development, you have to like realize like your key people, and he's definitely one of our key people.
Oh, for me also. I mean, he's, who I learned everything from. He was that mentor that I needed, to grow to where I am today. I mean, again, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in this role, like, if it weren't for him. I mean, he was who I learned everything from.
So Terry, if you're watching this, kudos to you. That's your kudos, Terry. So I know you're going to watch this too, so it's okay. That's amazing. Yeah. So I mean, the caveat from HR to safety, because I mean, like being in safety, a lot of times, running a consulting company, a lot of times look at an HR person calling us and saying, hey, our company has assigned us with the safety responsibilities, which we know, as being a safety director, like that's a whole beast in itself, right?
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of companies will like try to couple it in with HR, so I can see where that crossover happened because it's, it's taking care of the people and things like that. So
right.
It's understandable.
And there is a lot of crossover that you really don't take into account, but there is a crossover between safety and HR. There's many times when I, had to go to HR and say, here's an issue because the guys would come to me for it, and it's like, that's a little beyond what I can, talk to you about. So,
and I think it's safety because you're on the field with the crew and stuff like that. They get used to talking and being comfortable to connect with,
for sure,
with the safety person, whether it's a coordinator or a director. They just feel at ease.
Right.
A lot of times, just to open up on that. So.
Right, and that's something actually that I take pride in. That these guys, feel comfortable coming to me and divulging information that they wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable taking to their foreman, superintendent, supervisor for that matter. I mean, I'm one of the first people they meet, due to the orientations and trainings and all this stuff that these guys go through. I feel, comfortable with them, and I hope that they feel the same with me.
So that's awesome. Now let's get into the concept of, or the topic of, women in construction, right? Or just women in a male-dominated industry. A lot of times, doing what I do, I don't really like to touch on it or talk about it too much because I feel like sometimes it can be taboo, right? Because I feel like just, the famous saying, be so good they can't ignore you, right? And don't look at like, oh, I'm a woman or I have, XYZ, right? That could be something to hold you back. Do you feel like that has played a role to your advantage being a woman in construction or a disadvantage?
Honestly, If you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said nothing but an advantage. This past year, since I left Slack, I had a transition year trying to find a good company. But up until then, I had never encountered any kind of, disrespect from the guys in the field. Like, in a way, I feel like they saw me as like a field mom type person. So, and as you know, in the Hispanic culture, the woman is the matriarch a lot of the times of the family. So I felt like that they provided that respect. I never felt a lack of respect up until recently. So, but that comes with the culture, culture that the company builds. So,
I mean, company culture is so critical, and I talk about this all the time, and you'll see it like with our NW safety stuff, because we're setting ourselves out to be different, not just to be like every other safety consulting company out there, but we always say we're not competing on any fields with anybody around us, and we're just competing with ourselves. Like, how can we be the best every day, and how can we be better than what we were yesterday, right? And just really honing in on team culture, right? Because like what you experience, that is a company thing wherever you go. It's like it depends. It depends how it flows, right? Right. But so like our team culture, we're so big on not being the Hunger Games, right? It's like you should not go to work every day and feel like you got to watch your back,
right?
And you're competing against somebody, because if you don't win, then you lose, right? It's like, no, we all win together or we all lose together. We're only as strong as the weakest link. So that's something that we so much preach, like within our team, our NW safety team. Right. I'll say that this is not the Hunger Games. Like, if your team member is not doing well, what can we do to lift them up? Right. Because we need to all do well together, right?
Yeah, you can't be throwing people under the bus. Yeah. I mean, and the same thing with safety. I mean, it's watch each other's back, not only your own, but like you got to watch out for your fellow worker, because if something happens, like who's to say that can't happen to you as well? So,
absolutely. So being a woman in construction, up until this last year, that was your only experience where all of a sudden you were like, okay, maybe there is something here, right? I think about that, being in a male-dominated industry. I think because you grew in it, it was like no big deal, right?
Right. And I can see where it can be intimidating, just coming into it, because I was intimidated. But I think, kind of casually growing into the role that I'm currently in. I mean, I started in the office, I started, with a bunch of admin stuff. That's how my construction career started, starting in the office. Little by little, I got out into the field. Even at Zachary, when I was doing document control, they were having me go to different projects, literally all over the U.S. So I went to Louisiana, North Carolina, Alabama, all by myself,
Wow.
So right out of the gate. So,
and you were probably super young, because you're young now. So I'm like, you're talking about this like years ago.
This was me probably 21, 22. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. You were just like traveling and out there, and that's awesome.
Yeah. So it was scary, but I mean, exciting, someone straight out of college, it was exciting. So.
Can you imagine? I feel like 21, 22, that's like such an impressionable age, like to set the pace, right? So
right. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't feel that intimidation, that could be felt, but it's because of that, because like I kind of grew into that role. And not only that, I mean, I feel comfortable with these guys out in the field. They very open, they're very willing to talk to you. If you just have a conversation, like I'm not there to police anyone. I'm not, and I make that clear right off the bat. I'm not here to like police you. I'm not here to chew you out. Like if there's something that needs to be corrected, I'll tell you why it needs to be corrected. It's more of a learning moment, for these guys. So that's what I'm trying to make it,
So that's your philosophy and your approach to safety. So now you're with Enterprise Commercial Paving.
Right.
And you've told me off camera, you're like, this is an amazing company.
Right.
So can you tell me more about what makes it such an amazing company. I mean, we're talking about team culture and things like that. So if you, I'd love to hear more about their approach, as far as management and you can also talk about a little bit more like what you guys do on the field and things like that.
Well, yeah, of course. So this is actually new to me because the past, 10 years I've spent in utilities and excavation site work, those type of companies. Yeah. This company does asphalt paving, striping, parking lots, like streets, things like that. Yeah. So it's new to me. I'm still learning. I started with them in December, so it's been 3 months at this point. So I'm still kind of learning, my own way around what this company does. But for the most part, everything I've seen has been amazing. They have a great company culture. I wake up, excited to go to work again. That's awesome. So it's been great. I mean, they're from the top down. Everyone that I've met has been just amazing, from teaching me the ways of the company to teaching me, what they actually do out in the field. So, from the top down, again, it's been great.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. I'm glad you're in a good place. Waking up and being excited about what you're doing. Who wants to live any other way, really?
Right.
Like when you wake up and you're like, oh, do I have to go again? And to just be excited about working and what you're doing as far as saving lives.
Yeah.
In the safety industry, as we do it year after year after year, we forget about the aspect of we are saving lives because we don't know how many lives are being saved by our efforts. It's actually when we don't hear anything, that's how we know,
right,
the job
exactly.
is well done. Right?
You don't want your safety person to be, crazy busy. When everything is going fine, that's when everything is, is running safely.
Yeah. So it's like status quo is good.
Yes, in this world anyway.
In safety, status quo is good.
Yes.
We don't want to hear about all the incidents and the write-ups and things like that. It's just like, let's get past that. So in the world of technology, right, and AI, how do you think that is going to impact the safety industry? Do you think it's going to have much of an impact in the safety industry?
I think so. I was kind of looking into stuff like this, and not only that, but like some of these conferences and stuff that I've been to, that this topic has been brought up, with technology, entering the construction field. But it's coming, so one way or another. But we've seen a lot of use of drones actually on different projects. So not only to survey the project and take videos and pictures of the progress, but also in the safety field as far as doing overhead site inspections. So I've heard of companies doing that. In the world of AI, not so much AI, but virtual reality. I've seen the training is coming. That there's companies out there that are offering training via virtual reality because it provides these guys real life situations without putting them in dangerous situations.
Is that craft training? Craft training that's virtual, where they?
It's like for instance, they would give them so the way that this person explained it to us at this last seminar that I was at. Basically, they give them a virtual reality, obviously headset, right, and they put them in a situation with these real life potential hazards. Let's say for instance a trench, right, like an unprotected trench, and you don't want to put that person in that real life situation, out in the field. So if you give them a virtual reality, experience in that way, then they can go through the motions notions of what to do without putting them at risk.
That's really cool, actually. Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, something that will be featured in probably future podcasts, but we're working on our AI-based agentic software, NW Safety is, and so we're looking forward to unveiling that in the months to come. But because we see where AI could be a big tool, but in reality, I don't see it replacing people. I think it's just going to give people like superpowers, where you can do so much more as a safety director with the tools, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the analytics that you can run through AI, all the data gathering from, different audits and reports, all of that can be just compiled like that, and you'll be able to see trends,
very quickly, right?
Yeah.
You'll just pick up this is what needs to happen right here. Yeah. I'm excited to see it and to see how that grows. And I mean, I can't wait until we can actually share the software that we're working on and how that works out. But right now it's still in demo phase, so we're working on it. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, thanks. So, what are your future goals as far as what do you see yourself in the industry developing as a leader? Because you're definitely a leader, and you're a trend maker in what you do. It's kind of funny sometimes as we go through this and we don't realize that we're trailblazers. But that's what we are doing, right? We're trailblazers in what we're doing. So how do you see yourself developing, let's say over the next 5 years?
Good question. Obviously growing with the company, this new company, growing with them. From what I hear, they're growing, in all aspects. So obviously growing with them. And then obviously just kind of continuing my, personal skills and development in the safety world. I belong to several organizations, ASA, AGC, ABC, here locally. Maybe pick up, some kind of leadership role within those organizations. And maybe, I know that there's women committees, women in construction committees through those organizations, and I would like to get more involved with them. So obviously, because the women in construction obviously is a big aspect in that trailblazing world.
Yeah, and just setting the difference, right? Because I could definitely see that I feel like in the industrial world, women in safety, it's been very normal for a while, right? But in construction, not so much. I feel like that's relatively new. Or there's exceptions. There are those veteran safety professional women that have been around for a while, and they set a path, right? But even now, it's still new. It's not super common to see a woman safety director in the construction field. You see it in the industrial, but in construction, I would say it's a little bit more rare.
I guess the construction versus industrial world is a little different, obviously, right? Because construction, whether you want to admit it or not, it's a little dirtier, right? So being in the utilities site work world for the past 10 years, I had to get in the mud, I had to work in the knee deep mud. I had to go in the mud, I had to be around the dust and all that stuff. So I think that's where a lot of the difference comes in.
Yeah. Hats off to you.
Thank you.
So, do you have any advice for aspiring professionals?
I thought about this question actually because I have been asked this question several times, and it comes in the form of, well, how did you get into safety? Well, I kind of just got thrown into it. I'm one of the lucky ones where it kind of just came into my path. You know, I didn't go out looking for it necessarily, but at this point, I'm glad it did. You know, like I'm glad that this is where I'm at. But as far as for future safety professionals, I would just tell them that to learn all they can about the industry that they want to get into, gain as much knowledge, whether that be from training courses, you know, school courses, or field, you know, like firsthand experience. I didn't come from the field, so I didn't grow in that manner, but a lot of people that I know did. You know, they started out literally in the trenches, you know?
Right. Literally in the trenches.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like there are definitely exceptions to this, but some of the best safety professionals, they start in the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they understand the work, they understand the people.
Oh, for sure.
And I could, you know, ask this question. We receive, I would say, hundreds of resumes every month of people that want to get to safety, right?
Right.
And or they're already safety professionals on some level, and they're just looking for something new. And my biggest thing is not necessarily having a college degree.
Right.
Like, you know, I recently had one of our team members. He doesn't have a college degree, but he has, you know, certifications and a lot of field experience. And he was like, "Oh, should I?" He didn't say should I. He was asking like, "I'm going to go for a degree. What do you recommend?" And I said, "Why are you going to go for a degree?" That was actually my response. You know, and coming from somebody that actually, you know, I have a degree in biology. I was pre-med, then chemical engineering. So, I did all the academia stuff, right?
Right.
And my viewpoint is that you don't need a college degree to do this, right? But the best experience or the best education comes in the field. I was like,
In the field, and just learning, you know, the industry. You know,
Right.
I had to do the same thing. And honestly, I didn't start really learning the entire safety world until I got out into the field. I mean, the first couple of years in safety, I did office work, you know, a bunch of the office type stuff. But it wasn't until I got up into the field that I really got that full circle view of it.
Right. So yeah, I agree. And my advice to him was, I was like, take the next 4 years, instead of getting a degree, be in the field as much as you can. I was like, if you can work 10, 12 hours a day, I was like, if you want to take that point of your life, I was like, and you'll get paid for it, obviously. I was like, that is the best university you can go through.
Oh, for
and
sure.
in the meantime, try to get certifications, you know, going through UTA, things like that, and just keep on accumulating knowledge. But I was like, right, no need to go get a college degree for this, you know. So yeah, I think the advice is get in the field as much as possible. And if somebody gives you an opportunity, whether it's actually to do the craft, you know, that is the best start. You know, even if it's not on the safety side, right? Grow on the craft side, and then become a foreman. And there's an easy transition.
Because then you become an expert in that field. You know, you become the expert, so you know what to look for further down the line when you want to get into safety.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely that. And then the one other thing that I do recommend is reach out to people already in the field. I mean, get yourself a mentor. I had a good one, you know. I'm sure other people in the field, you know.
There's another kudos to Tanner right there.
Get yourself a mentor, you know, someone that you can go back to and ask questions and learn from. To this day, I still call Terry, you know, if I have a question, and he has no problem, you know, reaching back out to me and still being a mentor. So
that's awesome. Well, Claudia, thank you so much for today. This has been awesome. Yeah. Thank you for being our first guest.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us for our podcast premiere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This was Safety Cafe. See you next time.